Pittsburgh Steeler fans, welcome to the Behind the Steel Curtain family of podcasts. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. You can call me Bad. You also can call me Mr. 2 a.m. for some crazy reasons that have come up on the shows over the years. And this is Tales from 2 a.m. from Behind the Steel Curtain. And if you're wondering what Tales from 2 a.m. are, a lot of people think because it's Tales from 2 a.m. and the history that you've heard from me over the past, it's about tales of debauchery. No, that's really not it. Maybe every once in a while that'll come into play, but it's really Steeler tales. And it's really about just your Steeler fandom. And I'm talking about Steeler stories. And that's something that I love to do each and every week. When you're hearing this live and seeing this live, it's Sunday morning. In other parts of the world, I know it's 3 hours behind. Some parts of the world, it's 14 hours behind or 14 hours ahead. Those people are listening to us in the future, believe it or not. And maybe we'll be talking to some of those fellas that are way ahead in time on this very show. But I do want to talk about the Behind the Steel Curtain family of podcasts. We've been on this wild ride now for a while now. We've been doing podcasts here for over 5 years, even more than that when it all started. I've been doing podcasts for about 4.5 years now, and it's something that's been a whole lot of fun. For me, things changed when Jeff Hartman came back, and myself as the podcast producer and Dave Schofield, co-editor, and Jeff Hartman, co-editor, decided all three of us together on Jeff's porch decided that we're going to amp things up. We were doing about 8 shows a week. Now we're going to do about 22 to 24 shows a week. We have had, in the last 2 weeks, we've had a great interview with Ike Taylor. And I got to tell you this, if you thought Ike was fun, I'm not allowed to say what's going to happen, but this week we've got 2 biggies. One definitely, another one pretty big. Now, 2 weeks on the show, I couldn't tell you who was coming on, but all I did was say, we'll be swagging, and you knew who it was. I'm not even going to give you that. I can't give you that. I'm sworn to secrecy from the player and from the company sponsoring this player. But it's going to be big. It's going to happen this week, and we are going to be really glad to provide it for you. So about 22 to 24 shows a week. What does that mean? That means that you don't have to stop anywhere else. You have got all of your BTSC Steeler news right here. If it's the mornings, you check out the morning shows. Every morning at 5 a.m., we are going to have a show in the regular season, like a studio show, something that you're going to find on the national networks. You've already heard it with Let's Ride. You've heard it with the Retro Show. We're going to move the Retro Show off of that. We're going to give you more Steeler intense news, and we will be moving the live mic to Tuesday mornings. Stat Geek's still going to be on Thursday mornings. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Let's Ride. We're going to have a Saturday morning show that I'm going to talk to you about in just a moment that debuted yesterday. And all of your YouTube shows that you're used to, they're mostly going to be there too as well, and you'll have a chance to download them if you miss them live. So lots of stuff. I have lots of friends here on the line. We've got Ezra, we've got Dave, we've got Sean, we've got Matt, we've got Ryan, we've got Kathy. And Kathy, I've got a surprise for you. Doc Apollo's here, Dave's here, Corey, Logan, Kyle, Big Bro Sco, son, Kyle. Good to see you, Kyle, my man. Corey, Tab, and we're going to talk about fan experiences and a whole lot of fun. But did I mention to you that we have a new show coming up? And I'm really excited. If you have not had a chance to check it out, it debuted yesterday at noon our time. But it came from the future. And you're wondering what I'm talking about? You're wondering what I'm talking about coming from the future. No, it's not Doc and Marty. It's not the Back to the Future gang. But it's 2 blokes from down under. You know them well. And when I said that, Kathy, you're going to be excited because from down under, Mark Davison is here along with Matty Peverell. And I'm going to bring those fellas up now. What's up, fellas? How are you?
G'day, Brian.
Now, Mark and Matty are from Australia. Down Under, and they have debuted yesterday the brand new show on BTSC. It's going to be coming up in the regular season Saturdays at 5 a.m., and it's going to be called Touchdown Under. Matty, I'm going to start with you. What is Touchdown Under all about?
Touchdown Under is a really great one for us, and it's really about two blokes on the other side of the world that just have this passion for the Steelers, and that's Mark and me.
Mark, a lot of people are excited in the live chat. We've got Ezra, we've got Logan, we've got Kathy, really excited because you guys talk all the time back and forth in our live chat during our show. Matt loves the hair. Now, when I talk to you about these guys coming from the future, Mark, what time is it right now?
Right now, it's 11 p.m. Like, it's been a big day. Like, it's been a wild ride today, I tell you. It's crazy.
In 1 hour, it's going to be Monday for you.
Yeah. But this is what we do for the game as well, you know?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Ryan O'Toole says he feels like Bad should be using his Aussie accent. Guys, you've heard it. If we can rate that from 1 to 10, how bad is it? And hey,
we can teach
I've already hired you guys. I've hired you guys, so you don't have to flatter me. Tell me the truth. 1 to 10. I'm going to start with you, Matty.
I'm going to go 5.5. 5.5.
Wow, that's generous. Mark?
I think I need to hear it again, but I'm not too sure just yet. Maybe a 5 or 6. It depends.
Ryan O'Toole says minus 37.
Jeez.
Well, I guess I'm not going to put another shrimp on the barbie, mates.
Oh, 3.
Yeah. That's a bit rusty.
Come on, man.
So Dave Schofield and Jeff Hartman, they love to just go Jennifer Lopez, and I can't even do that.
That's the weirdest thing, though. Like, I've never heard anyone say that ever. Do you reckon, Matt? Like, no one said Jennifer Lopez in Australian accent ever.
No.
It's from a movie, I believe. So Kathy says she loves the genuine Aussie accents, and I know it's a little bit better. A lot of people are saying, Jesse George just said, hey, early for a show, mate. One of the reasons we're going a little earlier than we usually do is because these guys want to go to bed, and it's 11 p.m. But I really want to talk about their show. And Matty said it's about two guys in Australia, two blokes, and just talking football. And that's what I want it to be. So there's going to be a lot of stuff on the show that's you're not familiar with the slang. And I want you guys to be talking about that on the show, and that's what they're going to be doing. What is one of the things, Mark, that you mentioned yesterday on your slang? You mentioned the fact that a phrase called fair dinkum. What is fair dinkum?
Nah, so basically, like, we don't always say it in Australia, but like fair dinkum means like truth or true, or that's what it is. So someone says, you might have drove your car into another person's car, and you're like, fair dinkum. Like, it's a bit of shock value. So but we use these words all the time, and like fair dinkum's a fun one to say. Like, I wouldn't say me and Matt would use it all the everyday life, but like for me on the coast, I'm pretty much a bogan. But yeah, fair dinkum's a funny one to say.
I have no clue what a bogan is, but we'll find out what that is another time. Matty, now this is really interesting. It's not Aussie, it's Aussie. Okay,
that's right, Brian.
I didn't know that. I
think it's something that we see a lot. Like, Australians tend to run some of our words together, but for you guys over there in the US, you really sort of accentuate those sounds. So over here, it's not Aussie, it's Aussie. It's Aussie. It's like Ozzy Osbourne, and it's more said with that Z rather than that S.
I've never really heard it as Z too, so that's really awesome. I'm loving it. Now, I know you guys told me the other day when we were talking about this. You told me that Australia has learned a lot from when MTV got over there. And what was that, about 15 years ago?
Yeah, I think it might have been a bit before that, but yeah, it started to go quite mainstream about 15 years ago, Brian.
So American slang is very popular over there as well, right?
Big time.
It's just a culture. I think we learn as youngins. We learn that, like, we watch movies, and when we go to America, we expect to see the Simpsons everywhere and stuff like that. So it's all Americanized, and like Seinfeld, and like I actually went to that cafe and I tried to go in. It's not the real place, So that's what we get over here.
Yeah, it was quite
That's
funny
awesome.
in Australia in the 90s when they did a big poll of kids between 12 and 18. Michael Jordan was the most popular Australian sports person at the time. So
Yeah.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing. Who's the most popular now?
ooh, I reckon there'd be a lot that would know Tom Brady, but I think it's probably more in the soccer space. So you're probably looking at Lionel Messi or Cristiano
Yeah.
Ronaldo.
Or maybe even basketball, I would say probably too, you know.
Yeah, LeBron, big time.
Yeah.
I would think, and LeBron and the Lakers went past the Blazers
hmm
last night for me, and probably today for you. So really interesting, guys. Mark, you said it was a wild ride today. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so well, we did our I guess audition tape like yesterday with me and Matt, and for like to be honest, me and Matt have only spoken 5 times, but we've already got that Australian connection, and like I treat everyone with respect and that kind of stuff. So I woke up this morning at 8:30 and I got an email from yourself, and I was like, oh, I've got the job, or we might have some podcasts coming up, and I couldn't believe it. Like I was just in shock, and then I went out for lunch and. Chilled out a little bit today, and now here I am at 11 p.m. Like we talked to you this morning, and it's now the roles are reversed. Like it's quite crazy.
Matty, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I think Mark's passion is infectious. I mean, we had a good chat. I mean, obviously we've been talking on social for
Yeah.
quite a while, being down under and stuff, and commenting on each other's like different articles and posts. But had a good chat last week, and we've had a lot of chats through this week. And so to see some of this news and to be given the opportunity to be, contribute to this BTSC family that for us has been so helpful in being fans down under and on the other side of the world. It's just awesome. So yeah, definitely was keen. I had a bushwalk myself today, so quite stereotypical Aussie a little bit there, but it was nice to clear the head, and yeah, great to be with everyone today on the other side of the world.
That's on my to-do list, a bushwalk. I don't know if I could do that in Maryland, or maybe I have to go to Pittsburgh for that. I'm not sure.
Watch out for the snakes.
Thanks. I'm glad to know that. I will.
I'm not joking. I'm not joking. That's true.
Fair dinkum.
Yeah, exactly.
So guys, I'm so excited to have you here. Matty, it's not your first time with BTSC because you have written some articles in the last year. You've collaborated with Dave Schofield to go ahead and put some articles on the line. So you're very familiar with it. Mark, you've been with our family for about a little over 2 years that I've seen you. I've seen you here on the live chat. So it's great to have you guys here and a part of the family. And got to really find out. And I don't want to take all of your thunder because the show was awesome yesterday. And we're going to have this show every single week. And we're going to be talking about Steelers and the games going forward, what happened in the week. But what I want to find out is really your first experience as a Steeler fan. Now, you talk about on the show how you became a Steeler fan, and I'm not going to give that up because I want everybody to go ahead and download that and listen to it. Logan DiLorenzo asked, have you guys ever been to Pittsburgh? And I'm going to answer that question for you, Logan. Yes, they have. So I want to talk about those experiences. Mark, let's go with you first.
With Pittsburgh, or just the overall experience?
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh, I've been there 3 times. And I've been there in 2015 was my first time when I went to my first American trip with my friend Dylan. We did a whole America from like LA all the way to New York, and then I said to him, he went home, and this was over during Super Bowl 49 I was leading up to. So the idea was hopefully that the Steelers would make the Super Bowl and I would be in the city. They fell short that year. Not too sure who they lost to. I can't remember at this moment.
Denver.
But was it Denver?
Yep.
Yeah. So
everybody got hurt right before that game.
Was that the? I can't remember. Yeah, but
the week
going
before,
into that,
the week before was the Antonio Brown Vontez Burfict Pac-Man
Right.
Jones hit, and
he got hit in the head.
then Ben was hurt in that game. Le'Veon Bell was out, and D'Angelo Williams was out.
Right.
So there are a lot of guys out, and they still almost beat Denver.
Right. That's crazy because the idea was hopefully they would get in it and I'd be in the city, and that would be awesome. But I had to watch it was Seahawks versus Denver, correct?
No, it was actually Carolina.
Okay, yeah. So but when I was in the city anyway, that was the first time I've been to Pittsburgh. And it's like, it brings back to the whole thing with me and Matt being fans, and I've been fans for 17 years now, and to be on the show is actually quite just crazy. Like, it's just unreal. But like, it took me 15 years to get to the city. So when I first saw Heinz Field, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers, like, I just was like, this is it. And I was there by myself. It was snowing, and yeah, like, it all came like full circle, because all we see in Australia is ESPN or movies, or like, if we can get a live game, so it's good to, like, I call Pittsburgh my home. So if that makes any sense, like, that's when I was there, it felt right as like a fan.
That's absolutely incredible that you feel like Pittsburgh's home, and you're bringing home back home to Australia, and that's really awesome, Mark. So really glad to hear that. Matty, Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so we headed over to Pittsburgh last December as part of like a month-long US trip, and it was just, as Mark said, there's something you feel at home about, and I think it's just around this black and gold. And we headed in there. It was absolutely freezing. It was before the Bills game. That's what we'd gone over to see, and why we'd headed the week we headed to Pittsburgh. And it was absolutely freezing. And we'd all been warned by everyone. And we've got a lot of friends based over in the US. And they'd said to us, to me and my fiance, they've been like, guys, it is going to rock your socks. When that wind blows, it will chill you to your bones. And I kid you not, it did. It was quite a shock for us. And we're skiers, so it was quite cold for us. But, headed to Jerome Bettis Grill, had that experience. Nice to have a beverage across the way from Heinz Field. Did a bit of a walk around Heinz Field at night. It was absolutely freezing, but I just really wanted to see that stadium. It just gave me chill, like goosebumps, but in the good way, not from the weather. And so, yeah, game day the next day. It was, we talk a little about this on our podcast, but, it was get up, it was have this nice breakfast where, there was all different people that were just, they could hear our accents as we were walking around the city of Pittsburgh. And they were just like, you've traveled from the whole other side of the world. This is incredible. And it, and people were so welcoming as well. There's a big thing to be said about for how welcoming the people of Pittsburgh are, without a doubt.
What was it like walking into that stadium for the first time? And the reason I'm asking that is I'm going to talk about what it was like for me. And I call it a religious experience if you're that much of a Steelers fan. And first of all, I tell everybody this: if you're going to go to Heinz Field for the first time, you have to walk into the front of it. You don't want to come in from the side where the Great Hall is. Is that where you entered, Matt?
We came in, we sort of did end up coming in from the side with the way the tickets were for us. Okay. But as I said, we'd walked around, we'd done the whole stadium. I think I'd made my poor fiance walk around it 3 times. I just wanted to soak it all in.
Well, she earned her Permane sandwich. Did you have a Permane sandwich when you got inside?
We did. So that was awesome. That was an experience. You've got to tick that one off, but it's one that everyone likes to have a few more of as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have one in my hometown now in Maryland. It's one of the first ones in Maryland, and it's incredible. I can go anytime I want now. But walking into the stadium, what was it like?
For me, it just as I said, this goosebumps. So I remember I walked within the aisle that we had to go down, and I could just see the bright lights flooding through this aisle. And as you walked out, you could just start to see the noise. And we went out, we were going and finding our seats, I think about 20-30 minutes before the game kicked off. But just to see it, and then you walked out, and you just looking down at the field, it was like, am I really here? Absolutely surreal. Absolutely surreal.
Mark, you had a different experience because your first game was an epic game. Matt had a loss.
I know.
Matt had a loss that
Matt.
killed the season. Mark had a game that extended the season to the point where it was probably, when people talk about in the modern times in the last decade, one of the most famous games at Heinz Field was Christmas Day.
Yeah.
In 2016, I believe. Was it 16 or it was 16?
16. Yeah, because it was the end of it. Yeah, so yeah.
Christmas Day against the Baltimore Ravens.
It was like unbelievable. So I was living in Canada at the time, and I purchased my ticket back in June 6th. Told my boss, I told us in the podcast as well. I told them I was going. I said, "You can't go." I said, "No, I'm going. I'll quit." So when I was there, when I walked in the stadium, it just brings back that same thing. Like, I've been such a big fan from overseas, and when you walk in there, it's just like, it's unreal. Like, you just get in there and you're like, okay, I played this on TV and now I'm here. Okay, so let's go look at the field. Let's go look at the trophies. Let's go. I went around the side entrance. I didn't know where I was going. I just went to the gate. I had no idea. But one of the coolest parts of what happened was was walking up the tunnel, or I don't know how we get the seats. We go up the back and forth the tunnel, and everyone's yelling out, "Here we go!" And I'm like, I'm by myself. I'm like, I yelled it out. I'm like, yeah, like it was just so much fun, like so much fun.
The "Here we go, Steelers, here we go" is that chant has been around for as long as I remember, and my first game was in 1983. So actually, I digress. 82. I can't believe I got that wrong, but it is it's such a fantastic experience to walk into that field, and you were by yourself. So did people band around you and want to find out who this Australian guy was?
Well, it's quite weird because like I do a lot of traveling by myself. I just love going solo. But the thing is, like they don't know you're Australian until you talk. So if you don't talk to anyone, like they don't hear the accent. But I'm not going to go up to a random person and go, "Hey, do you want to be my friend?" Like that's a bit weird. Sometimes you can do it. But I was lucky enough. I found like a lady next to me on my right hand side. She was a season ticket holder. She was really nice and awesome. But like I said in my podcast again, I had these two other fellas who didn't want to talk to me at all. But I just started high-fiving everyone. Like there were people behind me, in front of me. Like Renegade goes off, and you just like the terrible towers are going, and you just like you go into like you don't even feel like yourself. Like I don't know. It's like you said. It's just almost like I'm getting chills again. Like a religious experience. Like it was just the funnest time. And even near the end too, I stayed back because like I said to myself, when am I going to be back here? Like 2 years later, I went back with my dad just for a stadium tour, but you'd never know. So I don't want to take it for granted. So I stayed back and just looked at the field, and I looked at people and just people watched. Like, it was awesome, and that was Christmas Day. Like,
that's absolutely amazing. Did you know about Renegade before that song came on? Did you know that they do this there?
Yeah, I knew they did the song there, but I didn't know about the song until Steelers, like probably until 2012 or 13 or something like that. I became a big fan I think it was about 2009 or 2010. That's when I started to be like really, really into it. So,
Matt, Renegade, was that the first experience you've had with Renegade?
I'd heard a little bit about it, but I don't think anything prepares you for it when you're not actually seeing it in the stadium. Like until that's going off and you're turning that terrible tower as absolute as hard as you can. It doesn't prepare you for it. And look, I've actually gone back since and watched the game where that debuted and really tried to sort of feel that, and even the goosebumps you get off that. So everyone had warned me about it, but until you're there and you're living and breathing it, it's a whole different story.
We had this conversation on the Steelers preview a while back, and we were wondering what the Steelers really think about it, if it's something that they tune it out. When we had Jordan Dangerfield on the show on July 4th, he was actually on the show, and we asked him, he was like, "You don't understand. When that song comes on, we get pumped up and we're singing along with it, and we feel more fired up because those towels are flying, everybody's going crazy." And it's a shame that we're not going to have that in the first couple games this year, but I still think they're going to go ahead and play Renegade. I have a feeling that's going to still happen at the stadium. So that should be actually a whole lot of fun.
We actually talked about that recently when we were having a call, and we sort of said we had that chat whether they would be playing Renegade, where there's no fans in the stadium. And I said to Mark, you know what? I reckon those players will be pumped up. They'll know that everyone's sitting there at home in front of their TV waving that terrible towel, regardless.
Now, Doc Apollo says, "I can't wait to have that feeling, guys. Never made a game yet." We've seen a lot of like that. If Ezra hasn't been to a game at Heinz Field yet, too. It is a fantastic feeling, and we're going to talk about that a little more. These guys have only talked on the phone for 5 times, and like I said, but when you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, there's something that's amazing. Once you get started talking about it, you're friends for life. And it's something that you could really do. So the rapport with these guys is real because they have that Steelers bond, and they're going to become even more friends over it, because that's what happened when I started talking to Tony. That's what happened when I started talking to Jeff, Lance, when I started talking to Dave Schofield. I hardly knew any of these guys when we started, and now I consider all of these guys really close friends of mine because we have that bond. We talked a couple weeks ago about your bond with your family and your bond with your family that extends to the Steelers. And I talk of all the time. I had my Father's Day show when I talked about my dad, who introduced me to my first game in 1982, Kansas City Chiefs. I could tell you all about that game. I just went back and watched it a couple weeks back. I watched it again. And today is my dad's 73rd birthday. So I'd like to say happy birthday to my dad, Bill Davis. I love you, Dad. And I'm not a Steeler fan if it wasn't for my dad. And it's great to find out how you guys became Steelers fans. Matty, I had a show a couple weeks ago when I talked about extending it to family, like I just said, and how I met my wife, and she had never watched football. And she started watching it. I took her to the last game of the season when Jerome Bettis, it was going to be his last home game ever. And I look over and she's crying. What was the experience like for your fiance? Have you infected her with Steelers yet?
I have. And she has Juju jersey. She has a Steelers, what we call like a hoodie, like a sweatshirt. She has a big, like sort of 3/4 onesie that she just wears all around the house. I got it for a surprise the other day. I'm like, you need more Steelers gear in the house. She had an awesome time at the game. It was something that she'd really bought into herself. She, without me, wouldn't be a Steelers fan, has bought right into it, puts up with the constant talking about it, puts up with Steelers gear everywhere. She's like, I'm always finding a Steelers jumper or shirt all over the house. I can't believe it. You know, but for her going to the game was incredible. And she absolutely loved it. She said it was unbelievably freezing, but for her, she's just become a massive fan of it. And she looks out for the guys. She keeps me all up to date with all the news on Reddit and keeps me sort of updated there. So yeah, I think for her, it's just become a bit of a way of life as well. You know, we're on a waiting list to get a puppy pretty soon. And I was already, we got to get a Steelers dog bowl. And she's like, is there anything not Steelers that we're going to get? So for her, she just knows it's a Steeler household. So.
Well, I got to tell you, Matt, when I got married, and this was my second marriage to my wife, Jennifer, now, when we got married, she knew that it was going to be all Steelers. And when I went to pull down the garter, I don't know if you have that tradition over there, pulling down the garter, but when I went to do it, I had a terrible towel stuck in my sleeve, and I pulled it out and I did the wave first, and I did the tease wave, and the place went crazy. And my kids were both draped in terrible towels within 10 minutes of their birth. And our first dogs together were Heinz and Palomalo. And it's really funny when it was a boy and a girl. We have dachshunds, and my wife would Heinz was a little crazy one. He was wild. He'd like to get out and run around and chase squirrels and chase people down the street. Or not chase people, chase their dogs down the street. And she'd be yelling, Heinz Ward, get back here, because his middle name was Ward. He was Heinz Ward Davis. Heinz Ward, get back here. Everybody thought she was crazy, and we called our little girl Polly, short for Palomalo, but she was so you might have to throw that in there. You might have to throw out the dog name.
Well, I spared a little bit on almost got a terrible towel, one of the custom ones made up for when she said yes, but I left that out. I thought I'll pause for this moment in time, but you can expect some Steelers cringe later on. Steelers.
Yeah. So Ezra says his lady's a Falcons fan, which means she's really a Steelers fan. Hey, that Super Bowl almost happened a couple years ago. That would have been crazy, Ezra. Mark, who have you infected with the Steelers?
Well, really not close to my family, but I guess I can give a little shout out to my page. So I've created a Steelers page here in Australia. So I'm actually really proud of that. Started from 0, now I've got 380 likes, but a good community of people, about 50 to 70 people interact with each other. And I was telling this to Matt today, and one of my proudest moments with that is not when I talk on the page, but when 2 other people talk together on the page. Like, that makes me feel so good, because would they have met each other? I don't know. Like, it's just, how many pages are there and how many Steel fans are there? But they're coming to my Facebook or the group and talking to one another about the Steelers, and that's why I did it, because I was boring my mates to tears, talking Big Ben and Debo and everyone else and my favorite players and what they should do, what they shouldn't do. They're going to win this, going to win that, and they didn't care. So I just made the page, and I'm pretty stoked that there's one for you. I'm pretty stoked that I have a little bit of a community that we can build upon and have fun with, you know. So
and awesome. Brian, it was interesting. We Mark talks there about some of the banter that we have, on that page. And even recently when we put up, like, it was a post that sort of said, what's the one thing you'd wish that the Steelers might change, what have you, related to an article I put up on BTSC. And so when we were all commenting in this group, I had sort of said, I'd love the Steelers to come to Sydney and play a game. We've had a couple of college games down here, but go on the road, play a game like they do over in the UK. And then we were bantering between whether the game should be played in Sydney or Melbourne. And then there started to be this banter in Australia about where it should be played. And it was just amazing to be a Steelers fan and having this banter with someone that would be banter we'd have in Australia about any other sport, but it was still Steelers. It was awesome.
So I'm going to ask you a question about that real quick. The name of the page it's a Facebook page, Mark.
Yeah, it's a Facebook one. Steelers Nation Australia. It's a picture of like Heinz Field. So everything I do on the page is thought out and it's unique. So I don't use Getty Images from Google. It's all the pictures that I've taken from Pittsburgh. This year I'm going to have to ask people for some pictures because I've actually I've ran out of and I never use a second image, so I try and use just unique ones that I've taken. So I might have to ask some fans, but yeah, Steelers Nation Australia, like just come by. Like it's meant to be for Australian fans, but we've got a few Americans in there. There's one guy, Kevin from Texas, that he met a Steeler fan who knew the page, and I think it was Brad, and then Brad told Kevin to come to the page. So it just shows you how wide it can be. Like, and even like I met Matt here and we're both on BTSC. Like that to me blows my mind. And it comes back to being a Steeler fan and how well we're connected with each other and how well we can respect each other as well. And like the football is awesome, but we haven't even talked about football yet. So that, you know what I mean? I think it's great.
I'm a part of that page and I really enjoy it. I was bored last week. It was late at night, and I got on there and I said, "All right, if we have a live show down under, where should it be?" And then we got the Melbourne, Sydney stuff going on, and who's going to show me around? And then a bunch of people said, "Hey, we'll show you around." One person even said, "Hey, my best friend's from Maryland, and I put Old Bay on everything, and she used to live in the same town that I live in." So it's a really small world. We are going to take a break. Before we take a break, I just want to bring up Port Naquenba. In the movie Diner, Steve Guttenberg made his fiance take a test on the Baltimore Colts before agreeing to marry her. And it was a really funny movie. It was from the 1950s. It came out in 1982 or 83, but it was a period piece from the 50s. And that was a really important thing. And they came down the aisle to the Baltimore Colts march, their fight song. So that's really cool. But we're going to go ahead and take a break. For everybody on YouTube, stay right here. For everybody downloading the show, come on back and download show number 2, which is going to be right after this. And we're back. Hi, I'm Bryan Anthony Davis, along with Mark Davison and Matty Peverell from the new BTSC show, which is called Steelers Touchdown Under. You can catch it on BTSC on all of your podcast platforms on Saturday mornings where they will debut. Their show debuted yesterday, and we are talking about that. It is Steelers Touchdown Under, and it has nothing to do with the Men at Work song, because I know that's been a lot of our knowledge of Australia. Men at Work. Do people really eat Vegemite sandwiches, guys?
100% we do. And we do like a grilled cheese with Vegemite on it. Beautiful. That's probably the easiest way, actually. That's a tip. If you do end up out in Australia, have it that way rather than a Vegemite sandwich.
I say don't have it at all.
What's that?
Don't have it. You're 50-50. I don't like Vegemite. No way.
I think it's dreadful, but I don't I don't want to step on it.
It's still colors.
True.
Well, that's true, but my Australian cuisine is from the outback, basically. There you go. But anyways, so this is the part of the show where we want to bring everybody in the live chat in and talk about your first experiences, whether it be Three River Stadium, whether it be Heinz Field, whether you haven't had that experience, or you could have had a Steeler experience on a road game, which is great because a lot of people talk about the Steelers traveling well. I don't think the Steeler fans travel as well as you would think they would, because a lot of fans already live there. And I talked about that last week. There is a question here in the meantime, and I'm going to bring up Portna here. In Aussie roles, why is there a West Coast Eagles team but no Steelers team? I don't even see a Victorian Football League team named the Steelers. Come on. I don't know what that means. So one of you guys take this.
Well, I've got a fun fact for you. Well, you go, Matt, you want?
No, go with your fun fact.
I got a fun fact, but I probably can't pronounce this word. So in the NRL, there used to be a team called, that's National Rugby League, where you pass it backwards, right? I'm going to really stuff this word up. Illawalla Steelers. Is that? Yeah. Steelers. And they were a football team. And they actually got their name from the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a contest, I don't know, back in like 1983 or something. And one guy, took the name from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that won the competition for the NRL team. But now they've transformed into the St. George Dragons. So, yeah, the first word's hard to say though, very hard.
Really interesting. I didn't know that. Somebody mentioned, I believe it was Mule Skinner mentioned a little bit earlier that Australian rugby or Australian football is a lot tougher than the other. Matt, do you want to take that?
Oh, so we have three codes down under.
Well,
so
we lost your mic,
rugby. Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you
guys still got me there? Yeah.
Yep.
So we have three codes. We have three codes down under, and one of them is rugby union, which is really where American football started from, and we have rugby league, which is a faster variation on that, and then we have Australian football as well. So we have three, and tough is an interesting. They're very different sports. Yes, we don't wear pads. We have concussion protocols as well. But they are very different games, and you'll look at the size of the players as well. Usually your players in the NFL are going to be that bit bigger than what we have over here. It's a very, very different sports. It is harder to compare, but you'd like to think as Aussies, we sort of think we're pretty tough. So yeah, it's relative. It's relative.
Now, Mule also asks, what team do you support in Aussie Football League?
Mark, do you want me to throw you out there?
I've got none. I don't follow the AFL, to be honest, because I'm in New South Wales, so it's more of a Victorian thing down south. I don't mind watching the sport, but I've never truly followed it in the AFL.
So yeah, I've got a couple of teams in the other two sports. So I follow the interstate. I follow the Queensland Reds in rugby union, and then in rugby league, I follow the Manly Sea Eagles as well. So they're a bit.
Oh yeah,
we're
the same.
That's right. So
they lost today.
They did. They had a bad loss too. It'd be like losing to the Ravens. So, but yeah, the AFL is predominantly played in Victoria and a lot of the other states. But for our state in New South Wales, Sydney's the capital of, and Queensland, which Brisbane's the capital of, it's a lot more rugby union and rugby league focused.
Now, I love how you bring that back to Steelers and say it would be like losing to the Ravens. I love that, because for you guys, you're born and bred in Australia, and you turn around but everything's all Steelers for you guys. That's great. Dave Schofield, the co-editor, the Oracle, is still on the line. He's still bummed Bryan and I couldn't find Matt at the game last year. We each kept just missing each other. And I heard you mention about the traffic. We got there and we met up with Tony, but then we just couldn't find you guys. And we ended up meeting some other folks from the live chat. That was a lot of fun. We hope to be doing that again. Don't know if that's going to happen this year, but we really would have loved to have hung out with you and met you then. Did you get a chance when you were at the game, Matty, because you said you came in from the side, did you get a chance to get one of those signs that said, I traveled from, and write it in and hold it up for the pick?
I did, 100%. I did. Yep. I went straight in, and someone, as soon as I walked in and someone heard the Aussie accent, they're like, you can literally go get a sign, wave it. You'll probably make the cut for that. It was quite interesting though. I'll give you a bit of Aussie slang too. What's the, you guys got across the water on your cars. What do you call that again for American terminology?
Across the border?
Across the water, when you came across on your cars. I think it was like a ferry.
A bridge. We don't really call it a ferry. We just call it a boat.
Oh, okay. So we would call that in Australia, where you can drive your car across it. We actually call that a punt.
A punt.
A punt is the slang term for when you drive your car onto like a lot of water bridge, I guess, and it takes you across the river. But I thought you guys find that interesting. It's a punt.
Speaking of punts, that's really interesting, but we've got to bring up punting. We've got to do it.
You got to do it.
He used to work in a Sydney McDonald's. Your buddy, your boy, Jordan Berry. What are your thoughts on Berry? I'm going to go with Mark first because I could see Matty wincing.
Well,
Mark,
yeah, I'm not too good with these stats off the top of my head, but I wrote a little piece for him at the start of the year on my Facebook page. You got to give the guy props. He's from Australia and he's been there 6 years. It's his sixth season now. Like, I would pay money to live in Pittsburgh for 6 years. You know what I mean? And he's getting money to play football, so you got to give the guy a bit of credit. And it's the one bad thing I think last year is when he got tackled in the last Ravens game. He got slammed, but what do you do? We all make mistakes. Like, he might not affect the game too much, but he's still Australian, and then like you got to give him a big shout out. Like, I didn't know it was 6 years until I looked into it, Googled it, and went, oh wow, he's been there a long time. So yeah, I think he can still do well.
Matty.
Oh, as Mark said, you can't hate on an Aussie in the NFL. You just can't. I just like to see a bit more consistency. We've got some great gifted kickers from down under, and I just think Jordan Berry can do a bit more. So that's what I'm looking for.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, we've talked about getting guests. It is your job to track down Jordan Berry and get him on your show. That's the challenge I'm going to give to you. And I think you guys should do the Jordan Berry stat of the week, since he is your bloke from Australia. So Dave Schofield mentions, what about Tim Tam? I don't know what a Tim Tam is.
What?
So help me out.
What?
No. You take it, Matt.
Your passion for it, Mark. The Tim Tam is a chocolate biscuit that's there's like a biscuit layer, and then there's it's more like a bit like a harder consistency mousse, if you like. Yeah. And then there's another biscuit layer, and then that's completely coated in chocolate. And so there was the original Tim Tam, and now you can get any Tim Tam flavor on its own. You get dark chocolate, you can get mint ones, you can get, and then they released a passion fruit one pretty recently. There are about 20 different types of Tim Tam. And it's quite funny because as Australians, when you travel overseas, everyone's always like, oh, bring us some Tim Tams. At the airport, they cost about 10 times as much you can get them for in the stores. I know they've gone global. There was actually I read there was a big media story over here because the global supply chain of Tim Tams out of Australia had been in this dispute about how much international fans of Tim Tams, I guess, should be paying for them. And so I know there's actually quite a bit of a shortage at the moment as a result.
Wow, a shortage of Tim Tams. That's great. I'm going to have to check those out. Ezra asks, what is the liquor of choice in Australia? Is it rum, vodka, tequila, whiskey, gin, scotch? In his household, it's rum.
Jeez. Well, firstly, g'day, Ezra. Me personally, I love Jack Daniels. Like, that's this, there's a lot of Aussies love rum, like Bundaberg, but like Gentleman Jack is you have too many and it's a good time but a bad time. You start off with a few beers and then, flip to the Jack.
I'm a bit more of I like my Tito's vodka, so Texan. There's nothing smoother in terms of a vodka, and I'm more of an Irish whiskey guy as well. So that's sort of the choice in our household. But Ezra, my fiance, she loves the rum as well. So we've actually got quite a good little bar set up at home.
That's awesome. Now, we were talking first experiences at games, and talked about your first experiences. Mark, I said earlier how you went to one of the most famous games of recent years in Steeler history. Dave Shipley has you beat. A 5-year-old Dave Shipley was at the Immaculate Reception at 3 Rivers, 5 years old. And Dave's a great contributor to our show. And Dave, I want to ask you how much recollection do you have of that? Because I was probably about 4 when I was at the filming of the great movie Slapshot with Paul Newman. It's a huge hockey movie. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. If you haven't, check it out right away. It's fantastic. But I barely have a recollection. maybe I remember uniforms, and that's about it. And I was at the penultimate scene. So the Immaculate Reception to be your first game ever, you've got to remain a Steelers fan when you do that.
Oh, yeah.
Logan DiLorenzo, another great contributor, a great one in the live chat. The only road game I've ever been to was at Philadelphia, and my first Steelers game at Heinz Field was against Philadelphia, LOL. So I'm going to guess that first game at Heinz Field was 2004, maybe. It could have been 2012, but I was at that game in 2004, and that was an amazing game because back-to-back weeks, the Steelers, the week before on Halloween, which was actually Halloween Day, so it was October 31st, they beat the undefeated Patriots. The next week, they beat the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. They beat undefeated teams back-to-back, and we're not talking 2-0 teams. They were like 7-0, 8-0, something like that. And this was Ben's rookie year, and they won 15-1 that year. So, Logan, that's fantastic. When you go to a Philadelphia Eagles game, and I'll tell you this, and we talked about it on the show last week, there's two stadiums that I'm probably not wearing a Steelers jersey. I'm probably just wearing a black shirt into, and they're not in Oakland anymore, but even when they were in Los Angeles, I would not go to a Raiders game, and I probably would not do it in a Philadelphia Eagles game as well, just to spare my life. So we're talking about great first games ever. I told you about my experience, and it was my birthday 2 days before. So the game was December 5th of 1982. I had just turned 10 years old. No, I'm sorry. I had just turned 11 years old, and I'm walking into the game with my dad, and it was larger than life. Everything was larger than life because I've watched this on TV so many times. And here I look down, even though I'm far up in the bowl, which you got to understand, Three Rivers Stadium might have, you guys were really young when Three Rivers Stadium got blown up and, well, imploded. But it was like an ashtray. It looked like an ashtray. St. Louis had the same stadium. Philadelphia had the same stadium. Cincinnati had the same stadium. And there was a cookie cutter, and they looked like ashtrays from above, but they served a purpose, and they were great, and that's all I knew. When Heinz Field came around, you're like, well, this is absolutely incredible. So that was my first experience, and I kept getting a chance to go back, but I never thought that I'd be able to do it. When you walk in there, you're just in awe. So the first time I walked into Heinz Field was 2001. And I had an opportunity to go to the first ever game at Heinz Field. I wasn't supposed to. And I'm still upset that I had to go to the first ever game at Heinz Field because the first one was postponed because of 9/11. So the first game was supposed to be the Cleveland game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, week 2. And that was postponed because of the tragedies of 9/11. So the week 4 game became and they had a bye early on. They had like a third week bye. So they didn't play they had like 3 weeks off before their next game, or 2 weeks off. It was a long time, but 2 Sundays, excuse me. And so then they played in Buffalo, and then the very next game was going to be week 4. And they were playing in Cincinnati, and there was complete pall over the world. Over the U.S. because we were going to war. We thought there were going to be strikes. I remember watching the news in Heinz Field. But still, when you're walking to Heinz Field for the first time, we walked in from the front, and you just see this whole yellow stadium because not everybody's in the seats yet. Just all these yellow seats, and you're looking. Well, excuse me, gold seats. And you're looking, you're just absolutely amazed at the wonder of it. And it is the greatest feeling ever. And that's what it sounds like you experienced as well. It's just absolutely amazing. And I was just about ready. I was a couple years shy of my 30th birthday doing that. And a grown man's going in there almost weeping because it felt so perfect. And every time I walk in there, and I've had a chance to go to a lot of games in that stadium. I've been to Heinz Field a lot. And every time I go in there, I do the same thing. And I just stand and I look and I breathe it all in because it's such a wonderful experience. And you can only feel that if you're a Steelers fan. You could feel that if you're a Baltimore fan going into M&T Stadium, if you're that passionate about your team too. I mean, you can. But as a Steeler fan, that's the only place you are going to feel like that. We had a live chat, and I hope I didn't lose it. There it is. Dave Shipley gave us a live chat, and we thank you for $5. So he wants to ask you guys, who are your favorite players? One defense, one offense, and we're going to keep it to the current team. And the reason we're gonna keep it to the current team is because you guys talk about your first favorite players in the podcast, and please go ahead and download that podcast. It's a lot of fun, and these guys they keep you engaged the entire time. In fact, Dave Schofield was walking around the house all day yesterday doing an Australian accent.
Was it good?
It's better than mine. I know that.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out.
Go ahead, guys. Offense and defense.
Yeah, for me, it's Juju. I don't know. There's a bit of fanfare there at the moment in terms of whether we'll be able to keep him, but yeah, love me a bit of Juju. Love the passion that he shows. And then I think on the defensive side, it's hard to go past TJ Watt. TJ Watt for sure.
Okay.
Fair.
Mark?
This is a hard question. So I immediately thought, like, right now, I'm thinking this is kind of a weird one, but I'm saying Big Ben because I realized how much we missed him last year. Like when Mason Rudolph threw that first pass, we're like, woof, you know? Yeah, Big Ben, I want to see his next 2 years. I really want to appreciate that. So that's for the offense. For the defense, I'm pretty excited about Minka Fitzpatrick. See what he can do. He looks like another superstar, and I'm glad we got the trade from the Dolphins for him.
What was your thought, Mark, when that trade happened?
Like I'm still like I'm not really Xing those guys kind of like that, but I'm like I looked straight away, went to YouTube and we went to YouTube and looked up all I was like, wow, you know. But to see him when he started playing, like that first game against the Niners when he really came out. Was that the one? Week 2?
Was his first game, yeah.
Yeah, and he did like 2 interceptions or a fumble or something else. You're like, and we still lost. I'm like, damn, like five different turnovers. But he created like 3 of them, and you're like, who is this guy? And he just got better the whole year. And then I'm like, man, mid-season, they weren't throwing to him, and that's why he was quiet. But yeah, he's gonna be really fun to watch over the next, if we can keep him for the next 5-10 years.
And that's not quiet if they're not going near you. That means you're making a loud statement. You come near me, I'm snapping that ball up, and I'm going the other way. I want to bring up Damian Preston here. And Damian, I missed this earlier. Hurricane Laura couldn't stop the Steelers' pride live from Port Arthur, Texas. Me and my mom been without lights for 4 days, but go Steelers. From the greatest Steeler fan ever, I named my son Pittsburgh. What? That is awesome. That is awesome. Damian Preston, God bless you. We will pray for you, and best of luck. I'm glad Hurricane Laura couldn't stop you. I know that one of our great listeners, Felicia, had to evacuate as well the other night on that, and she was talking about that on the preview. So anybody who's been affected from Hurricane Laura, Damian, Felicia, you know, God bless you. You were in our prayers because you are a part of our BTSC family, and we love you. And best wishes there. We've got a couple more live chats. Kathy is seconding that. I'm not sure what she's seconding that. Here we go. Snowman, you have to do another show with these two gentlemen. This is a great show. Cheers, gentlemen. And Kathy, she seconds that. And thank you so much. That means a lot that Snowman 100%. And Kathy would say that. Let me go ahead and bring that. Actually, I can't bring it up. I don't know why it's not coming up on the screen, but I do thank Snowman and Kathy for the $5 each. Love to have you guys on again, but you can check them out. All you have to do is to go to any of our platforms, and there's so many of them. We had it on the other day. I mean, anything that you can think of, it is really going to be on there. So check it out. I know Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Anchor, iTunes, Apple Podcast, Pandora, Luminary. That's just a few. I mean, I'm sure you could find it anywhere and everywhere. So check it out. These guys are absolutely fantastic. We probably talked a lot less about your first Steeler experience. But not a lot of people wanted to talk about that. They wanted to talk to you guys about the Steelers. So
Awesome.
we're going to get ready to wrap up some things here as I'm looking through here. Yinzer Mob said, haven't had the honor of going to Pittsburgh yet, living on the West Coast. I've watched the Steelers lose twice to the 49ers and 3 times to the Raiders. They don't do well on the left coast, but they're going to get there. They are definitely going to get there. There's Kathy with the second that. Dave Shipley throws in another $2. And he says, follow these guys on Facebook. And definitely do that. And definitely check out their show. It is, once again, Steelers Touchdown Under.
Mm-hmm.
As far as everything else goes, we have a few minutes left here. I'm going to start with you, Mark. What are your thoughts on the 2020 season for the Pittsburgh Steelers? And if you can predict not just a record, because you predicted a record on the show yesterday. I don't want you to do that.
Yep.
I want you to predict how far this team goes if they make the postseason and how far they go. And I'm going to have both of you do that.
All right. So I think let's be really honest. This is a really good team. We have a great defense. We've got Big Ben back. If we can run the rock, we have a really good chance. But let's be totally honest. We have a Super Bowl shot, but the only teams that really stand in our way are probably the Chiefs or Ravens on that side. There's no more Patriots unless they cheat their way to get there. But it's true. We have a really good shot this year. Like Big Ben, he's got some stuff to prove, and he wants to win another championship. And this defense is, like I said on the other show, it's the best since 2008, in my opinion, and many people back that up. So, but as fans, we want them to win the whole thing. But the Chiefs, it's hard to beat Patty Mahomes. He's doing some really good things. Like he's unbelievable. It's to try and slow him down. And the Ravens, we always play them tough, no matter what. Like throughout my duration of watching the Steeler games, like it's always been win by 3, lose by 3. So even if we are the better team, we may lose to them. So that comes down to, I would love to see another AFC championship between us two somehow. That'd be fantastic. And then, get the crowd back, just fill the stadium times 10 if we're allowed to by then. But yeah, we got a shot, but those teams are in the way.
Matty Peverell.
I think we've got a real shot at the AFC Championship game. I'm really high on the defense, like as Mark said there. I think for us, it's going to be about staying healthy. We've talked a lot, and Ben in his interview a couple of days ago mentioned a lot around being a bit more of a veteran team, and I think they've really got that. They've injected some really nice youth. I thought they did quite well in how they played free agency. Yeah, but for me, it's AFC Championship game, and I think we're gonna something in my little works or my little crystal ball tells me we'll be going through the Texans in the postseason. I just feel the Steelers Texans matchup, and as you said there earlier about Philadelphia, I feel like we'll be playing Texans in the season, and I feel like we'll take them on in the postseason as well. So we'll see.
Really interesting. Ezra says 13-3 AFC Championship at Arrowhead, Super Bowl, Steelers 26, Saints 20. So that would be awesome too. I hope all of you guys are right. I think this is going to be a very special season as well. Guys, we're going to wrap things up here, but we had a great chance to talk about your Australian experiences being a Steelers fan, but the last 2 minutes show what you're going to hear every single week with these fellows, Mark and Matty. I'm sorry, these two blokes, Mark and Matty, these two mates. So what you're going to hear every single week is them talking about Steelers with their own Australian perspective. But when it comes when it comes all together, it doesn't matter whether you're living on that side of the world or whether you're living here. We all live in Pittsburgh in our hearts. As Pittsburgh Steeler fans, we are a part of BTSC Nation. We are a part of Steeler Nation, and we're Steeler proud. So really excited. Check out Touchdown Under. If you have a chance today, go download that. The show is absolutely fantastic. If you like what you heard today, you're going to hear so much more on that show without this guy chiming in. So that'll be a lot of fun. For Bryan Anthony Davis, well, that's me. Okay. For Mark Davison, for Matty Peverell, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Thanks so much for joining us, Mark, Matty.
Thanks for having us, Bryan.
Man. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, fellas. We will talk to you soon. God bless you, Steeler Nation. We love you.